What's going on, guys? Aldrin Estacio here with FlytPath.com. Now in this video, I want to talk to you guys about some of the equipment and some of the accessories I've been able to use for the past about year and a half or so to kind of create these YouTube videos. Now I've actually been on YouTube in general. I've had my account for about 4 years, but I didn't really start taking YouTube as like a, more of a serious platform until about April of last year when I started going a little bit more, I'd say more serious with YouTube, trying to shoot more videos, trying to produce better content. But even back then, I didn't really have much equipment going for me. I didn't have, higher end camera gear. I was into more photography, so I had a bunch of like photography cameras, not necessarily video cameras. And the idea was I wanted to, jump into the YouTube space, but I didn't want to sit and feel restricted by having to buy a bunch of really expensive equipment. So what I want to do here is kind of show you guys some of the equipment I've been able to use for the past year and a half that I feel like are fairly, affordable to really start going and to level up your video production as you grow. And it wasn't really until this year when I started, giving myself kind of milestones. If I reach a certain, number, if I reach a certain subscribers, then maybe I will, kind of in a way treat myself to level up that next piece of equipment. So hopefully in this video, you'll find some of this information valuable as you start kind of building up your YouTube studio. I definitely have a long way to go as, from where I want to be. But at the same time, I don't want to just start buying stuff and thinking I need it and then having it slow my actual content creation down. For me, it's more about just producing content, and as you start growing, you will then add little pieces to your toolkit. And if you're looking for more drone videos or drone accessories, I have a couple of videos down below, and I'll also leave that above. It just talks about some of the top 5 drones that I suggest and that I've used in the past and kind of my recommendations of who I think the drones are for, as well as I have another top 10 accessories for drones. Make sure you guys check those out. Like I said, links are down below in the description. So like I mentioned, when I was doing some of my first tutorials, I was actually just using a conference room, and I would just have a bunch of fluorescent lights just right above me, so the lights would come down, darken up my eyes and darken up right underneath my chin and everything. So it wasn't like the best lighting in the world, but I wasn't worried about that. I had content to create. I had a message I wanted to get out to my audience, and that's all I worried about. But as you kind of move forward and you progress, then you just want to think about some of the lighting things. So the first thing that came to mind when I was shooting my tutorials in a conference room, because I had a top-down fluorescent lights, was just kind of upping my lights, upping a light from the front because I was really only getting top lights. So the one thing I got was a really affordable, newer LED panel light, and they're like 50 to 100 bucks each. They're a panel that's really adjustable. It's really bright, and you're able to adjust not the temperature on these ones, but there's gels that you can use to adjust temperature that way. But they're really cheap. They're about 50 to 100 bucks, and all you have to do is use that type of light. And I'm actually using one right now to light up the background. Now another light I picked up is the Aperture Amarin M9. This thing is amazing, and this light is really versatile because you just have it in your bag. This can actually sit on top of your camera, or you can use it to light up a background. You can light up a subject just like that. And actually I just used this in my previous video when I was lighting myself up at night. It was pitch black, and I was doing that video about the spotlight on the Mavic 2 Enterprise, and it was pitch black. I just had this little light on a light stand, and it lit me up really well. It gave me more than enough light at night, and this thing is really good. Just your fill light, background light if you want to light up something in the background, or if you want to do some interviews. This thing is really nice. Now another light I recommend is LumeCube. Now they have a bunch of different kind of really all-weather type of lights, and that's the one thing that's good about these versus this one, is that this is kind of all-weather. This can be underwater. It is adjustable. This older one here, which is their first version, is adjustable at 10 different levels. The new one, which is about half the weight, is just as bright, but what's really nice about this one is it's smaller, lighter. So if you were to put this on, anything like on a camera or something like that, it is really light, and it comes with a bunch of these little diffusers. They even have this kind of selfie style clip. And if you're vlogging, this thing is really cool because you can use your cell phone, and then you can use this light to light you up right in front. Right now I have a soft filter on it right now, and you can put a different colored gels on here as well. So I started out using these types of lights. Like I mentioned, I used the LED as well as these smaller LumeCube and the Aperture ones. Then as I started progressing, I now moved up to the Aperture Tri 8C, which is actually really cool because you can actually adjust the brightness just on a remote. You can turn it on and off right here. And it's also portable, so you can have battery packs attached to it and you can kind of just move it around. So really nice type of light. Now when it came down to audio, before I was actually just using the on-camera audio mic that was on there. But if you're shooting something like this where the camera is farther away from you, you're gonna get a lot of ambient noise. It'll start echoing a little bit more as well. So the one thing I did was I picked up, which is the Zoom H1 handy recorder. Now they actually have a newer one. I think it's like the Zoom H1N. And the one thing I like about the Zoom H1 is that you can either use it as a handheld. So I did a bunch of interviews when I was at conventions like CES and actually had some of the people just talk into this. You can get a little windscreen on here and you can actually use this as a handheld mic, which works really good. Or what I like to do is use it as a lav mic. So what you want to do is pick up this Rode Lav with the accessory here and plug it into the side of the H1. Then all you have to do is mic up yourself or mic up your subject, hit record, and everything will record now to the SD card on here. So your audio will be nice and crispy, even if you're farther away. So after using the H1, I wanted another mic to have at home. So it wasn't until this year when I bought the Rode NT-USB mic, which is right here. And that's what I'm using to record this audio. I'll either have this one here on my table or on a boom arm. And I'll make sure that information is also down below. But I wanted just another microphone to have at home to do some of my audio overlays. Now when we talk about cameras, I always suggest starting out with your phone camera and then adding some other equipment on the side, like your light and also your audio. Light and audio make a very, very big difference for your videos. So making sure that you have some of those things and not worrying so much about just, I need to buy the most expensive camera. I would definitely look into some of these other accessories first before then jumping to that expensive or next camera. And the one camera I did buy was the Canon G7X Mark II. Now the one thing I really like about this camera is, of course, as you can see here, it has the flip out screen that's able to go right above here. So when you are doing anything that's vlog style, that's the one thing I really like about this camera is that flip screen, and the autofocus on this Canon is really, really good. So I'm not too worried about, losing focus. It'll be able to track my face if I'm moving all the way around. Now this is still probably my favorite camera and I still use it up to now because it's always with me. It's really, really small and compact. The audio is pretty decent on here, and the low light on this thing is really, really good. So if you're shooting in, indoors, indoor to outdoors, it's able to adjust and change and compensate for that low light on this camera. So the low light on this thing is really good. Flip screen is a huge plus. The only downside, of course, is that there's no audio jack out here, so you're not able to plug in like a mic or anything like that. There's no hot shoe, so you're not able to put a microphone on top. But that's why you always pick up something external like this, like the H1 or another light, and you can get other ways to mount them on there. So even though I use my Canon a lot, I actually picked up the Sony, as you can see right here, which I'm filming on right there. So that is the Sony A7III with the Tamron 28-75. That's a Rode Video Micro on top, and then I also have my aperture monitor right here. Of course, GoPros are always really good to have, just because this is the type of cameras that are just all weather, all purpose. You can, carry them and post them up anywhere. I have mine just on a little tripod here. Do some, time lapses on the side while you're shooting some other stuff. Get some B-roll with it. And it's just a good all-purpose camera that can take a beating. GoPros, of course, the new GoPro 7 just came out. Amazing stabilization on that one. I can't wait to do a review on that. But even this one, a GoPro Hero 5 Black, shoots 4K, shoots slow-mo, and you can pick these up for about $250 right now, around 250. And it still works just as well. Like I said, it's the same thing. If you get a GoPro and you want to use this for vlogging, you might want to pick up something else like an external mic, because the mic on here is not the best. And then level up again with a little bit of light. So make sure you're shooting in some good lighting conditions. So if you're not shooting outdoors, if you had to shoot indoors, pick up another light. You're gonna have a really good setup here with a GoPro, an external mic, as well as a light. And that's your whole setup right there if you're just starting out. And if you want to be a little bit more creative and have a little bit more fun with some camera angles, I have the Insta360 as well as the Insta360X. These are 360 cameras, just a little bit more tricky to use because of the software, but at the same time, if you wanted to get into something a little bit more different, 360 cameras are also a really good option. This 360X is amazing. The stabilization on this thing is awesome. If you guys haven't seen my video on this one, make sure you guys check that out. I'll link it up above and down below. So that was just a list of some of the lighting, audio, and video equipment that I'm able able to use. But of course you have to hold these things with something. So of course the Joby, you know, Gorilla Pods are a very popular one. So I have small ones here that I'll put either my GoPro or some lights on. And then I have this one right here, which is strong enough to hold something like my G7X. So if I'm, you know, vlogging with this, I'll normally use this one. There's also a heavier one, which I need to get for DSLRs, which I'll need to pick up to use on my Sonys. And there's also things like gimbals, and this is the Zhiyun Tech gimbal. DJI also has their Osmo Mobile. So this is just a 3-axis gimbal here. So if you are shooting with something like your mobile phone and doing a lot of videos that way, and you really want some, you know, smooth footage, you can pick up a gimbal. These are super cheap now too. I think this Zhiyun one is like 80 to 90 bucks. The Osmos, I think, only about 100, 120 or so. And I'll make sure I, you know, put all the correct or accurate prices down below in the video description. But this gives you smooth footage. So if you're running with this thing, if you're just vlogging, you're doing any types of video, this is a really, really good option to have to get you really smooth footage. Another accessory that I use on almost all my cameras are the Peak Design straps. So I have the straps here on my Canon. I just swapped this out earlier, but on my Sony I have the straps. So these are really good, and now they have a bunch of new updated ones, little thicker bands. And since I do a lot of product reviews, the one thing I got is this slider, which is really, really nice. I actually have a review coming up on this one. This is the Micro 2 slider. And the one thing I like about this one is actually one of the more affordable ones, and it's really, really good. And like I said, I have a review coming out on this one. You're able to move this across, and it's really, really smooth. Now, this is one of the more affordable ones. This runs about a couple $100, around a $200 range. Of course, what I want to do eventually is start moving up to things that are a little bit more automated. I know Rhino sliders out there, Edelchrome and some of the other ones, but when you start getting into the automated ones, then you're jumping those price ranges again, $400 to $500 to $600 ranges. This one is only 200 bucks. So there it is, guys, just some of the equipment I've been able to use. And as I go through, you know, shooting more and more, of course, I start leveling up more and more. In the past, I used to be, you know, kind of one of the people who would just buy everything when it came down to video and, you know, photography equipment and find out I'm never using it. So I like to just upgrade as I need, or as I find a need to. And I'm slowly upgrading as I go. As you know, I produce more, you know, you start figuring things out here and there. So this is just some of the things that I've been able to use. I'm going to be having a bunch of other giveaways this week, so make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel and hit that bell to be notified when I post new videos. Thanks again for watching, guys. This is Ultra Estacio with FlytPath.com. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.